Hi guys, it's ASBYT and welcome back to a brand new video. Now, of course, the iPhone XS Max and the XS were both released last Friday. I, of course, got my hands on it and I did a quick unboxing, so go and check that video out if you so wish. I talked a little bit about specs, a little bit about design, but in this video, we're going to delve a little bit deeper and I'm going to share with you my impressions after 5 days of use of the iPhone XS Max. And we're now away from the hype, the buzz of the launch. We're going to talk the truth, the good and the bad, exactly what you're getting for the money. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. Right, so the iPhone XS Max, the S variant of any iPhone, is a incremental upgrade. The design doesn't really change. They just tweak bits of software and performance in certain areas, and this is very much the case again this year. So before we start the review, take into account if you're an iPhone X user, don't expect there to be a great deal of difference between the two phones. Yes, there are improvements, which we'll get to, but it's not going to be night and day. Right, so first of all, we're going to talk form factor and design. Now, the form factor is exactly the same pretty much as the iPhone X. Obviously, if you've got the Max, which I've of course got, it's just a larger version of the XS. So a 5.8-inch display on the XS and a 6.5-inch on the XS Max. So if you've upgraded to the XS from the X, you don't need to buy a new case because it literally fits exactly. Oh no. Yeah, you do, because the camera is a tiny bit larger on the XS. It's just annoying really, isn't it? Now, I opted for the Max version. I personally prefer a larger display, and when you look at them side by side, I personally feel the XS looks quite small now compared to the Max. And although I do love the new larger display on the Max version, there's still a few things that I don't think Apple have quite mastered, like for example, proper optimization of a split screen for two apps going at the same time. Not a deal breaker for some people, but again, if you're coming from Android and you're used to that function, you may find that a bit of a struggle. Talking about the glass, it is the strongest glass on a smartphone currently, so it will aid a little bit with scratches and drops. I mean, it will still crack at some point if you keep dropping it, but it should help a bit. Obviously, because of the glass, we get wireless charging again, but this year it is faster than last year. It's not groundbreaking, it's not a massive difference side by side, but it is a little bit better. So that is, of course, a welcome tweak. Tweak. I only just realised how strange that word sounds. Tweak. Now, in terms of cable charging, we do have Apple's fast charging, which is about 50% battery in 30 minutes. Not quite as good as some of its Android competitors, like the likes of Oppo, for example, who have now produced VOC Charge, which you can get up to 75% in half an hour. But it still does a pretty reasonable job if you go out and buy an additional charger, because the one that ships in the box is a standard charge. There'll be some people that will tell you there's a reason behind them not including the fast charger in the box, but I don't care. Apple, I said this on the unboxing, and I'll say it again. You're getting another one of them. It's one of those little shortcomings that people remember. If they're paying the amount of money that they are for an Apple product, it's got to be the little details that matter. And to not include fast charging straight from the box, when you've shelled out over $1,000 US, 1,000 UK pounds, I think personally that's a little bit wrong. Now, we were told at the launch that the iPhone XS Max's battery would last an hour and a half longer than the 10 from last year, and I can confirm that the battery life is actually really good on the Max. You'll definitely see a very similar performance from the XS itself from the 10 last year, but I've noticed from my normal everyday use that I get easily through the day, and it's not till right to the dying embers of the night that I need to actually jump for some extra juice. Although another little pet peeve of mine with Apple is the fact that the battery percentage isn't visible. In the top right hand side, you just get the icon. You actually have to swipe down on the settings tab in order to see the percentage. Come on, Apple, please change that. It's a little bit annoying. It's not the end of the world, but it is something that would be very helpful. No headphone jack again this year, which I'm sure you're well aware of, but the only difference is in the box again this year, we didn't get an adapter this time. Now, a lot of people are saying, similar to the fast charging not being included in the box, that it's a little bit cheap from Apple. This is where I feel it's a little bit different from the charger, which should have been included. I kind of see why they didn't include the adapter this time, because Apple don't want you to use a headphone jack. Otherwise, they would put it on the phone. So to keep supplying adapters kind of defeats the object of getting rid of the headphone jack in the first place. And they're going to now start pushing this idea even more firmly. I know a lot of you guys still use wired headphones and this will annoy you, but they're definitely sticking to their guns with this. I'm just in the middle here, guys. I hear what you're saying. Don't shoot the messenger. Again, coming from the Samsung Note 9 and the OnePlus 6, it's a lot wider than those two Android phones, and it's far flatter as well at the back. I personally prefer the comfort on the Note 9 and the OnePlus 6 with that specific form factor. I feel those phones fit better than the iPhone XS Max in my hand. It's not uncomfortable, it's just not the best. Again, that will come down to personal preference, that's just mine. Also, interestingly, with the XS Max is the fact that the speaker grille is not symmetrical. It seems a bit odd for an Apple product, regardless of whether you like Apple products or not in terms of performance. Most people will agree that the aesthetics of the products tend to look quite good, but this certainly looks a little bit odd. And another thing that still looks a little bit odd, even though we've seen it for well over a year now on the iPhone X, and that's the notch. Now, I personally don't mind it in normal use, but it definitely comes into play when you're viewing media, for example, and Android devices that have a notch. Using software, you can completely blacken out that area so that you can view media how it was intended to be viewed. I would be very shocked and very surprised if they included a notch again next year. The design will be different, and you can bet your house on the fact that they will try their best to find a way to get rid of that notch. Now we're going to talk about the camera. Now the camera has been improved. Again, it's not night and day, but it is definitely better than the iPhone X. The likes of Smart HDR this year work absolutely amazing. You know, its ability to take lots of different photos when you press to take the photo, and then it will process all of them together to give you an amazing dynamic range. And I found this especially great in portrait shots, for example, whether that be the rear or the front-facing camera. Both worked great. So even when you're shooting basically into direct sunshine, it still manages not to overexpose certain areas and keeps everything really crisp and clean. They've done an amazing job with that. You know, photos pop with very saturated colors, although sometimes I feel it's a little oversaturated. And funnily enough, they seem to be the sort of photos that Samsung phones used to take a few years ago, and people said they were amazing photos, but if a little bit oversaturated, whereas the iPhones tended to be more true to life. It now seems to kind of have flipped over. You'll know that if you saw my camera comparison between the iPhone XS Max and the Note 9. Go and check that out after this video if you want to see that. But yeah, the photos pop, they're very crisp, they're a little bit oversaturated, a little bit overprocessed, especially when you're talking about the depth effect photos or the bokeh effect, if you will. Yes, it captures the foreground and portrait, you know, faces, for example, amazingly, but the edge detection seems to be a bit off. The software, you can really see almost like a software line around the head, for example, and I definitely feel that needs to be looked at. Whether they can do that in a software update, I don't know. You can actually, for the first time on the iPhone, not the first time ever, but the first time on the iPhone, you can actually edit that bokeh effect, so you can make it more or less blurry by scrolling through until you find that sweet spot. And this actually does help sometimes if you get that software blur line around the head, like I mentioned. If you dial it down a little bit, you can kind of lose that to some extent, but I do think automatically it should be less. And another thing they need to look at is lens flare as well. Again, in the camera comparison with the Note 9, I took a lot of photos facing into sunshine, and anytime I did that, and with video recording as well, I was getting quite significant lens flares. Again, can this be changed with software updates? I don't know, but it's a possibility. This is a quick clip of the front-facing camera, which you can shoot in 1080p up to 60 frames a second. Another thing that Apple talked about at the launch was the fact that you can now record in stereo audio as well. So again, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. I'm now going to go to the rear camera, which of course is 4K at 60, so you do get that bump up in resolution. I personally feel the image quality on both the front and the rear cameras for video recording or video capture is very, very good. It's very high, and I think the image stabilization for the front-facing camera at 1080p at 60 frames a second is actually pretty good. Let me know what you think. Here we are shooting in 4K at 60, and in my personal opinion, the clarity and crispness of the shot looks amazing. But yeah, the stabilization could be improved, but that's pretty much said about all smartphone cameras currently on the market. 4K at 60, they do struggle a little bit with stabilization. Obviously, if stabilization is very important to you, more so over the actual resolution, you can scale it down to 1080p at 60 frames a second, and as you can see, it is a far more stable shot. You just lose that slight crispness in the resolution. Alternatively, you can also use 4K at 30 frames a second or 4K at 24 frames a second, and again you will get slightly better stabilization, but the actual footage won't be as smooth, obviously. Now, one thing that's inexcusable from a camera point of view with the iPhone XS Max and other Apple phones is the inability to change settings within the camera app. So if you wanted to change your video settings, for example, from 1080p at 30 frames a second to 4K at 60 frames a second, you have to actually go into your settings app and go into camera and then change them there. You can't actually just go into your camera app and edit the settings in there. Why you can't do that? I honestly don't know. It makes no sense to me, but there may be a reason for it. But yeah, it certainly can get quite frustrating if you're on your camera app quite a lot and you want to quickly change settings. To have to keep coming out and going into the settings app is very clunky. And again, for iOS 12, which is very fluid like liquid, this feels very strange. Now, obviously, we talked quite a lot last year about the lack of a fingerprint sensor. It was just simply Face ID, and we're a year on and we've got the same situation. Now, I've obviously come from a lot of Android phones like the OnePlus 6, the Samsung Note 9. They have Face ID, but they also have fingerprint sensors, and I felt that I would struggle using just Face ID with the iPhone XS Max. And if you're thinking of switching but you're a little bit worried as well, I feel I can put your mind at rest a little bit, because many people were thinking it's a two-stage thing, but that's not really the case. What you actually do, as soon as you pick the phone up, it automatically wakes the phone. So as you're lifting it, it's already woken the phone and it reads the face. It's very quick. I'm talking a second, and then instantly you get the little icon to say you can swipe up, and that's it. And it kind of feels the same as if you were to have a home button and a fingerprint sensor on the front of your screen. The display now boasts up to a 60% better dynamic range. Photos and videos pop. It does look a little bit more vivid. Again, it's not groundbreaking, but there is definitely a difference. And yes, it's still not the Quad HD screens that we see on the Samsung Note 9 or the Sony XZ3, but it kind of comes in, for me personally anyway, a kind of a halfway house between those phones and then down to the likes of the Huawei P20 and the OnePlus 6. It kind of sits in between, slightly better than those, again in my personal opinion, but not as good as the Note 9 and the XZ3. Now we're going to jump onto the interface, the experience, the software, and there's always going to be a massive debate. And the debate? There's never going to be a debate. There's going to be always a debate between iOS and Android, and there are of course pros and cons to both. But even if you are an avid Android user, you can't deny that iOS, and in particular the new iOS 12, is as fluid an operating system as there is. And the enhancements of the new iOS 12 are even seen on the iPhone X, and that phone itself appears far snappier as a result. In addition to the iOS 12 update, we of course have, and one of the big talking points about the iPhone XS and the XS Max and the XR as well, is the addition of the brand new A12 Bionic chip, which is the first ever 7nm chip in a smartphone. 6-core CPU, 4-core GPU, and Apple will tell you that that'll allow you to open apps 30% faster, up to 15% faster CPU performance, but also, and very importantly, being up to 50% more efficient. But of course, I know what you're thinking. Companies say that every year. Every time a new product comes out, they say, oh, it's 10% better, it's 25% better, it's 50% better than last year for such and such. So what does it mean in real everyday use? Well, I can only tell you from my perspective, and I've predominantly been an Android user over the last few years, but the iPhone XS Max is an absolute dream to use. The fact that the hardware and the software is made by the same company means the experience is a great success. The only competitor on the Android side would of course be the Google Pixel. Again, both hardware and software made by the same company, but it absolutely breezes some of the most complex tasks. And even gaming, for example, is now a lot better on the iPhone XS and XS Max. Gestures are like liquid, and because Apple have had a head start on gestures over some of its, again, Android counterparts, it does feel a little bit more fluid than perhaps like the OnePlus 6, for example, which kind of does gestures best currently in my opinion on Android, but it is a bit more jarry on this phone compared to the iPhone. But one area which I don't feel is as good is the back gesture. So the swipe up to go home, the swipe up and hold to go into your recent apps, the swipe down from the top right hand side for your settings, all work great, but the back gesture for me is a bit indifferent. Sometimes it works great, you can swipe it from anywhere on the screen, but in certain apps you actually physically have to press a back button or swipe right from the left hand side of the screen. And again, coming from the OnePlus 6 gestures where you can just swipe to go back just on anything, I feel that's a bit more advanced. It's also up to IP68 rating from the 67 that we saw last year. Not a massive difference really between the two, but it's a bump up. We do, of course, have stereo sound on the iPhone XS Max as well, and I'm just going to play you a quick clip now from one of my YouTube videos so you can get an idea of the quality. And in my opinion, it does have some of the best smartphone speakers on the market. Right, now we're going to quickly talk price. There are no two ways about it. Yes, it's a very premium device, but as you well know, it's a lot of money. Me personally, I think if you have the iPhone X, I wouldn't personally upgrade. I would wait for next year because yes, there have been improvements, especially to the camera, for example, the new A12 Bionic chip, but all of those things will be present next year and improved, as well as a brand new design, new features, etc. So I don't feel there's technically been enough changed in the S model this year from the 10 last year for you to warrant spending an extra £1,000. On the other hand, if you're coming from the iPhone 6 or the iPhone 7, for example, then yes, it is you will get quite a significant upgrade. You will notice a far better phone. So incremental upgrade, yes, but that kind of feels pretty standard with a lot of 2018 smartphones. It seems to be, for me anyway, a year of incremental upgrades, and I think we're going to see a lot of new technology coming out next year with the likes of 5G, fully bezel-less displays without a pop-up camera, foldable phones. You know, whether you like those sort of things or not, there's definitely going to be innovation and changes next year. If you're in iOS and you're into the Apple ecosystem, it kind of sets itself apart, and all the while people are happy to spend that sort of money on those products, they can keep charging those prices. Would I personally recommend spending that sort of money on a phone? Based on the fact that it's a computer, a camera, a workstation, you know, you use your phone far more than you do a computer. Still no. It's crazy high. But hey, if you have the cash and you love iOS and you're into the Apple ecosystem, then yeah, go for it. More power to you. That's pretty much it. I hope you have found this review helpful. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of the iPhone XS Max and the XS or the XR as well. Do you think Apple have done a good job this year? Would you have liked to have seen more? If you're an Apple user, are you going to wait till next year? Or if you're an Android user, would you ever consider switching to Apple and vice versa? And do you feel that the current high prices of Apple smartphones and the improvements of budget Android smartphones, do you feel at some point Apple will have to come down, or do you always feel they'll be right at the top end of that premium price bracket? Like and share if you did enjoy this video and found it helpful. Subscribe and hit that notification bell if you're new to the channel and want to be notified every time I post a video. I'll love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. ASBYT, peace out.